What's up, team? Welcome back to the Coachable podcast. I'm your host, Tori Gordon, and this is your place to come level up your game because this is a game of life, and we're here to learn how to play it and play it well. Because if you want to win, we have to start to learn how to actually attack our goals and our dreams from an offensive perspective. And today, I want to give you my hot take on what it takes to unpack your emotional baggage. Before we get into this conversation, I do want to let you guys know about something exciting that I have coming up this summer. I've partnered with Area 15 and the Radiance Wellness and Music Festival, the first of its kind here in Las Vegas. It's coming up June 17th. And I'm excited about this because this is an opportunity for whether you're local here in Vegas or looking to make a trip that you can come and get supported, encouraged, inspired, and take care of your mind, body, and soul all in one weekend at the Radiance Music and Wellness Festival. I'm going to be hosting an exclusive 60-minute workshop on embodiment and how you can drop out of your head into your body and create some embodiment practices for yourself so that you can really live and lead from your heart. So if you've been, wanting to get connected, if you've been wanting to meet other people or just get in an environment that is going to help you thrive, there's going to be so many amazing things happening that weekend, from exclusive interviews with Modest Yahoo, workshops like I'm going to be running, breath work, meditation, yoga, Pilates. There's going to be so much happening. So I'd love for you to join me at the Radiance Music and Wellness Festival this summer. It's June 17th. You can go to the show notes to find a link to get your tickets today. Now, let's jump into this episode. Here's my hot take, you guys. So many of you loved the recent solo podcast episode I did about cleaning up after an emotional storm. So to piggyback off that conversation, I think it's important to talk about what's left over after an emotional storm, and that can be our emotional baggage, right? I have said it many times on the show and on my social media that trauma is not just what happens to us, but what happens inside of us as a result of what happens to us. Now, this can leave us feeling heavy, weighted down, like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders. We can bring that emotional baggage into our relationships, into our careers. It can be what self-sabotages us from our dreams. It can be the thing that we feel like is standing in our way and we don't really know how to move forward. And so I want to talk about starting to unpack that. So many of you guys have said, Tori, I've just been through an emotional storm. I have so much that I've been through in my life, and I'm just now ready to start to unpack that. Where do I start on my healing journey? Here's what I would tell you. Unpacking that emotional baggage is a messy process. I just had my production manager, my good friend, my assistant, Nikki, who is part of this show, and move in recently. And I was reminded of the process of moving and how much it requires our attention, our energy, our effort, and what a freaking mess it can be. And as she's unpacking, we've been talking about, just that process. And I thought about it as it relates to our emotional baggage. And it's pretty similar, When we move or you're traveling, typically when you're putting everything into your bag, you're excited, you're organized, you're thinking about what you want to bring with you. But it's the unpacking part that is often stressful, challenging, chaotic, and messy. And that is the same for our emotional healing, for our internal transformation. So the first thing I want to tell you is that unpacking is messy. When you decide, I'm ready to work on myself, I'm ready to heal from these patterns that have been habituated, that I have repeated over and over and over again, that maybe aren't serving me anymore. We've all heard that saying that until you learn the lesson, you repeat the grade. So maybe you're one of those people that's like, I have been repeating the same cycle or pattern many times in my life, and I'm ready to stop that for good. But that requires you to look at, where is that coming from? Why did that start in the first place? And doing that requires your attention. It requires possibly working with a coach or a therapist or finding a trusted friend that you can start to unpack things with. It requires a level of awareness and self-reflection. And many of you guys who listen to the show are at that point in your life, whether you've done this work before or it's the first time you're entering into some personal development. It can feel tricky of where to start. And oftentimes it can feel like when you do start this work and you start to ask yourself, what are my beliefs? What are the thoughts that I have? What's my self-talk sound like? Why do I feel the way I feel? Where's that really coming from? When you do that work, it can sometimes feel like things get worse before they get better. And that's the truth. I am not here to sugarcoat it. I'm not here to lie to you or make it seem like the healing journey is one that's easy. Oftentimes, when we really commit to our personal transformation, what we're doing is not asking a force to come into our lives to make everything easy and rosy. What we're doing is uttering a silent prayer to the universe that asks everything to come into our life that will challenge us to grow. And that isn't always the path of least resistance. Often it requires, or it brings up a lot of fear, resistance, and desire to want to run in the other direction. And trust me, when you walk into a room that's absolutely messy that you've been avoiding for years, it's not really the thing that's like beckoning you and calling you. It's like, come clean me, come pay attention to me. You're like, no, how do I avoid this at all costs? I'm never going into that room again. So just answering the call to start to do the work that you've been avoiding is the first step. Saying yes to it, because continuing to run away, avoid, distract yourself, act like it's not there, pretend that it's not happening isn't serving you. And it's just this monkey on your back that you're carrying around, this boulder that's in your baggage that you're taking everywhere you go. So realize that as you start to unpack this stuff, it's going to get a little messy, and that's okay. It's actually necessary, because the next thing that you have to do is start to identify what needs to be there, what needs to be kept, and what needs to be discarded, right? I have boxes of old clothes that are sitting in my garage that need to be gone through. And there's a lot of that I don't need anymore, right? I need to donate it. I need to give it away. But maybe there's a couple of things that I do want to keep. But how will I know if I keep walking past it or keep ignoring it in the corner as it collects dust, which is a lot of what happens to us when we don't address the emotional wounds that happened after an emotional storm. So it requires you to start to sift through the chaos and the mess and to see what's left over, right? And that's a process that takes time. No, time doesn't heal all wounds, but it is a necessary component in the healing process, because these things don't happen overnight. You guys, we don't get to this place in our lives where maybe we're unhappy in our relationship, our career, or we're depressed or anxious. Maybe we're dealing with a toxic relationship or a friendship breakup. Wherever you are in your life, we don't get there overnight. There's a series of events that occur. There's a series and patterns of thoughts and feelings and actions that ultimately end us in having the results that we have. So if we didn't get here overnight, we're not going to transform our lives overnight either. Cleaning up and discarding and deciding what needs to be kept and gotten rid of doesn't happen overnight. So again, we want to create spaciousness and have patience with ourselves during this process. So maybe you're working with a coach. Hopefully you've got a therapist or someone in your life that can help you start to sift through the mess so you can find the diamonds that are left over. Because underneath all of that crud and dust and just like debris might be something that's really precious, might be your purpose. It might be the thing that you've forgotten that was there all along with it inside of you that you've lost touch with. And it's just gotten buried under the weight and the pressure of life. And so I want to just remind you that it might feel hard at first. And Again, if it was meant to be easy, everyone would do it. We would all be healed. We wouldn't have issues, right? We would be living in a peaceful world, but look out of the world and you realize that that's far from the truth. So unpacking is messy. It requires patience. It requires consistency. It requires putting in the work and the effort and identifying what needs to be kept and what needs to be discarded. But just here's your reminder if you're starting your journey, everything is hard before it gets easy. Your growth is in the struggle. It's in the discomfort. It's in the being with and allowing for yourself to see what's been underneath the surface all of this time. Because if we continue to run and avoid and distract, we're really doing ourselves a disservice. Your growth is in the showing up when you don't feel like it. It's saying, this matters to me enough for me to put my best foot forward, that I care enough and I deserve a life that feels as good as it looks, because you and I both know that we can decorate our lives to look good on the outside, and we can hang up pictures and do our hair and make sure we look really good and are wearing the nicest outfits and have a good friend group that makes us, feel good about ourselves. But when we're honest and we put ourselves to bed at night and we lay our head down on our pillow, are we just scratching the surface? Are we just numbing ourselves just enough so that we don't have to actually deal with the baggage, the thing that's been underneath? So it takes a lot of courage. Your growth is in doing the thing that you don't necessarily want to do, but you know you need to do to create the life that you want. Your growth is in doing the thing before you're ready, before you feel prepared, before you feel like you have a game plan. It's just about getting started, because you're going to do so much more if you do a little bit every day than if you try to sprint and clean up everything all at once. You're going to immediately exhaust yourself. It's okay to take this one bite at a time so that you can digest, integrate, learn, and have the wisdom of, okay, I've really taken time to think about how this thing specifically has affected me, or why this pattern showed up in my relationships over time, and allow that reflection to then integrate and take root in your life before you move on to the next thing. Because again, we do this in steps. This is a journey. This is a process. And I want you guys to learn to fall in love with the process. And you don't need to know exactly all the steps before you can get going. Because your growth is really in the commitment. It's in the commitment to showing up and doing the thing even before you're ready or when you don't feel like it. And keep getting back up. Keep trying. Maybe you made a phone call to one friend one day and you wanted to ask for support or share something that was on your heart and it didn't go well. Don't let that be a reason that you don't do it again, that you close your heart down, that you live in isolation, that you don't try new things, that you don't go new places like the Radiance Music and Wellness Festival, because you might just be missing out on the friendship or the relationship or the experience that could break you open. Don't let one little thing be the reason that you say, no, it's not worth it. I'm not going to do it. Right? I'm not going to trust people again, or it's not worth my time or energy or attention, because it's actually your breakthrough is on the other side of getting back up one more time. If it's hard today, it's okay. If you're looking at the mess in front of you and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to clean all of this up, it's okay. You don't have to do it all today. You really don't. It doesn't have to be perfect and pristine, and your internal environment doesn't have to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But we just get to commit to the process. We get to commit to cleaning up our internal world and making this place, your body, your mind, your soul, a place that you want to inhabit and want to be. Show up anyway. Because even if it's hard today, I promise you it's going to get a little less hard tomorrow if you keep showing up. You're going to start to see the results of cleaning up that mental mess, that internal baggage. It's going to start to sort itself out. But you can't get there if you only show up one day, it's like going to the gym and putting in like a 2.5 hour workout and you're so sore. You're like, I'm never going back there again. Do a little at a time and know that that's enough. Because if you dedicate yourself long enough, one day you're going to wake up and realize that it used to be hard. What used to trigger you would maybe knock you down for an entire day, an entire week. It would put you into a thought spiral or a negative place for weeks on end. If your friends go out and they forget to invite you, maybe you would let that just eat away at you inside and really fuel this unworthiness wound within you, right? These are just examples, but I'm telling you, the more you do the work and you commit to cleaning up that internal mess, the things that used to be hard, the things that used to upset you won't upset you as much as they did before. And that's the journey that we get to be on. One day you're going to look back or one day something's going to happen and you're like, man, if this happened to me a year ago, I would have been devastated. I can think about my own journey. Things that just would have sent me into complete spiral. Now, I don't even let phase me because I have a different perspective. I've rewired my beliefs. I've taken the time to look at my patterns and clean up the parts of my mental mess and my emotional baggage. And sure, there is still ways for me to go. There are still things I'm processing, still things I'm cleaning up. So don't look at me and think, oh, she's perfect or she's got it all together. And, that's a lie. But I'm a lot further today down that road than I was 6 months ago, than I was a year ago. And that's because I've been committed to the process. So get started, keep getting back up, and just realize that if it's hard right now, it won't be hard forever because you're going to keep getting better a little bit every day. That's my hot take, you guys, on unpacking your emotional baggage for this week. Be sure to stay tuned for more upcoming solo episodes. I would love to get your hot take on what you want to hear in these solo episodes. If there is a social media post, a video that's going viral that you would love my opinion or my thoughts on, my advice, send it over to our team at support@torigordon.com. We'd love to feature you on an upcoming solo episode. And you can be sure to know that we're going to be doing more of these where we're going to take a short couple minutes to answer your questions or give you my hot take on something that's trending in the online space. So I love you. I hope this is helpful for this week. Go be coachable, implement, and make sure that you stay committed to your goals. I love you. I'll see you next week on the Coachable Podcast.